to the first episode of Pub Life, Life Behind Bars. Is that what you called it?
I think that's what we're going to go with.
All right, that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, yeah. Don't get used to seeing me. I'm just here for the first episode. This is his show.
He's here to draw in the ladies. And then it's just going to be me, unfortunately.
And he's here to keep the ladies.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
It'd be nice if that would happen. So, what do we talk about?
Well, you know what? This first episode is going to be about you.
All right.
And this is going to be your introduction to the world.
Where do I look? Do I look at you or do I look at the camera?
You can pay more attention to me.
Okay.
But if ever the moment grabs you, you're feeling a little cocky, just go ahead and just kind of wink at the camera, this first episode, man, we're gonna get to know you.
All right.
We're gonna get to know you because after this, you're gonna be in my seat getting to know the people across from you.
Got it.
But I want everybody to know exactly who you are first and how you got into this, how this whole idea came about.
Well, I was going to do this podcast thing with a puppet. I have this puppet that I was going to work with, but I thought it might be a little too controversial. Like, I don't want my kids to see this at some time of when I'm long gone and say, yeah, Dad was working with a puppet. It's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to, own up to that. So I'm going to try with a human, and we're going to see what happens here. We both have some cocktails, like on Club Shay Shay. Mm-hmm. I don't have my own brand yet, but I do have a limoncello that we're producing in-house. And but right now I have a glass of Malbec, and you have a Jameson Irish whiskey, which is my favorite brand of Irish whiskey.
But I have the top-notch Jameson here, the one with I forgot what but the teal colored cover.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I think that's either the IPA or the.
I'm not sure. So all I know is when I got it, Brandon said something, but he said, "Oh, you want this one?"
He wants to upsell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's my man.
Yeah, this is the expensive one that
Thank
I got.
You, Brandon.
Yeah. Oh no, this was me. I did this. I said I wanted this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Brandon just gave it to me with no problem.
But you had said off camera that you're traditionally a Grand Marnier man.
Yes, I am.
And I'm a big fan of Grand Marnier. Back in D.C., that's what all the bartenders drank. Mm-hmm. During our shift, the barbacks were responsible for always keeping a small Grand Marnier on our side while we were ringing up everything. Mm-hmm. But, so that was a long time ago. I've been out here probably, I'd say that was about 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
So let's get into how you started.
Yes.
With with bars. Like you started with bartending, right?
Well, I started as a waiter back in '84. I went to Cheney University in Philadelphia for a year. Mm-hmm. Transferred to Howard University. Shout out Bison.
Yep. Shout out Bison. My son is there.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. And first, got off a Greyhound bus. Had my suitcases in my hand. Went to Pizzeria Uno. Said, "Are you hiring?" They said yes, they were. And I had no concept of tipping or any of that sort of thing, so I had no idea that I would be making enough money to get home from Georgetown. And I said, well, how do I get home? They're like, you're going to make about $80 to $100 a night, and I think you'll be able to get a taxi home. So my first night I made $180, and that was pretty much the end of my college career. I said, do I really need to? No, I still continue with college, but I was able to live a lifestyle that a lot of people were not and get through school quite comfortably. Okay. And that's been, always been a thing that I've fallen back on, the waiting tables, bartending thing. And I've just taken it to a different level now, but it's all the same customer service, friendly, stay friendly with everybody, meet great people, travel, and it's always been a go-to for me. And, I have raised my children in this business. They have excelled, and my oldest is 20 years old right now. 18-year-old daughter I have as well, and I have a son at 16. They've been in this business since they were babies, so they've been running around my place, you know, helping me out. And now that they are older, they can appreciate what comes with it. You know, it's not all positive. There's a lot of hard work, and dealing with people is not always the easiest, but
Right. Mm-hmm.
it's been a lifestyle that I'm blessed to enjoy, and I've met great people like you and Chris, and you know, I would not change anything about it. So I started in '84. I hitchhiked to DC. We were in a BMW that broke down on the side of PA Turnpike. I had a choice to go back home or continue my journey. And we got some jumper cables out, and I was shaking them on the side of the road. Somebody picked me up. And it was a gentleman from the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, picked us up, drove us to D.C. I lived in some friends' basements for a while until we got established to get my own place, and never looked back.
So what was it when you first, when you became a waiter?
Yep.
What was it about waiting that made you say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Well, I am naturally an introverted individual. If I did not have to leave the house, I probably wouldn't. Just, you know, it's just my personality. But it was a way to bring myself out, to open up, experience some things about myself that I did not know were in there, you know. So my wife is an extrovert. She talks constantly, which helps me because with her, I never have to say anything. I can just say I'm with her. So, but she is, you know, so being an introvert, you can you fall back on the fact that you don't have to say much. You don't have to, you know, it's not my natural state. And everyone is shocked when they hear how introverted I am. If I could literally never leave my house, I probably wouldn't. I don't like to interact with humans, but I'm forced to because this is my business, and I own this thing, and I've got to make it work. And it gives me an opportunity to meet people. It gives me an opportunity to talk to people. It gives me an opportunity to travel. I've traveled all over the world, meeting people from the people that I've met in this business, and there's very few opportunities to do that. And where you have that bar that separates you, whatever that 3-foot radius is. You sit there, you talk to people, and they open up to you. And it is an opportunity that it's almost like a therapy session where people talk to you, they open up about things they normally wouldn't. They're loosening up because of the alcohol. And the next thing you know, you've made a friend, a genuine friend, not just in this building, but someone that you can see out of this building. They invite you to their homes. They introduce you to their families. Where else is that going to happen, you know?
Right.
So as a result of that, what have I done this for almost 45 years? I've met some incredible people. I've traveled to incredible places. And without this opportunity, I probably would not have done that. So it's a blessing, you know, even though it's painful. And by the end of the day, I am just exhausted from talking to people because it takes everything out of me to do this.
Right.
You know, but I love it. And I would not change one thing about it.
So that introverted part is, I think that's interesting. Every time I come across a person who is introverted, but they are in an extroverted industry.
Yes.
You know, I think that's like, I've met strippers that are introverted.
Exactly.
And I think it's just the funniest thing in the world once I get a chance to like sit and talk to them. And I'm like you really don't, like, what you do is not really who you are.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny, you know, but I've also come to realize that some of those introverted people with those in extroverted industries are some of the best people that I've ever met.
Sure.
You know.
And I think Beyonce once said something like she's Sasha Fierce when she's on stage, you know, and then she looks at herself and she's like, did I just do that? You know? Sometimes I feel like that, like some of the things that come out of my mouth, I'm like, did I just say that?
It's like an out-of-body experience.
It's another level of your personality. And it's in there, I'm sure, for most people, but some people it's more natural. For me, it's practiced.
Right.
You know, because in my natural state, I'm at home by myself, either painting or sculpting or doing something completely solitary. I'm an only child, so I grew up with everything always where I had placed it. And it is a stretch for me to have a wife and 3 children where if I put something somewhere, it is not going to be where I put it.
Right.
And I'm like, it almost flips me out. Like, I'm like, that's not where I put it. You know?
I understand. I'm also an introvert. People don't.
I would not think that.
I know a lot of people don't believe that about me, but I am like if you ask like the people that are closest to me, they will tell you they'll be like, yes, he is absolutely an introvert. I am an extroverted introvert, I guess.
Sure.
You know, when I'm in certain environments, I am able to just come out, but. So the people closest to me, they can see when the shift is starting to occur, because at a certain point, I'm like, all right, too many people.
Yeah. So how does that affect your acting? Because you're also an actor. How does that affect your craft?
Well, when I'm working, it's different.
Okay.
It's different. I'm there to get the job done. But typically what happens, and Chris, our camera guy, everybody, you can't see him, you know, he's in the background, but he could even tell you, like even with our podcast, they have joked about how when our podcasts are over, they stay there and they talk and I'm out.
Right.
and they're like, oh, you never stay. And I'm like, no, I'm out, because at that point I've had enough of people.
Sure.
You know, I've had enough. I need to go be by myself at this point, you know.
See, I am the master of the Irish goodbye. I don't know if you are familiar with that term.
I'm very familiar with the Irish goodbye.
All you see is a puff of green smoke, and I'm out of the building, and everybody's like, where did Brian go?
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
that is one thing that we may have in common.
Yes, I am definitely familiar with it. But you know what, though? I don't do the Irish goodbye.
You don't?
No, I make my rounds. I tell everybody I'm leaving, and then I'm out.
Sure.
Yeah, then I'm out. But I think for me, the reason that I don't do the Irish goodbye is because I'm always wondering, would somebody be offended that I just left without saying goodbye to them?
Yes. See, you know? I assume that everybody knows me well enough to know that I'm hanging on by a thread, and I'm about to explode at any time.
Right.
You know, so they just say, yeah, he's done enough. So let that brother go home and go to bed. You know.
So I got a question for you, man. Okay. Why a pub?
Well, all the bartenders in D.C. growing up, when we were coming up, were like, when we got off of work, we would say, where are we going? We're going to a pub. Why a pub? Because it's where everybody meets. It's a family thing. It's where everybody congregates. There's kids. There's not really a bar. And, there's a difference between a tavern, to me, a bar, and a pub. To me, a pub is where you take your kids, you take your grandparents. You might have 2 or 3 drinks, and you go home. You know, I'm not looking for people to be out here all night doing shots of Jaeger and all that sort of thing. I'm looking for a place where people can have a meal. They can have 2 or 3 beverages. They can bring their families. They can bring their grandma. They can bring and there's no swearing, really. There's no, fights. We don't tolerate any violence of any kind. If you have an incident, you're not allowed back in. So we want a safe environment for families. And I think the pub atmosphere dictates that. So pub means public house, which means you live upstairs and you have a bar downstairs is traditionally what a public house is, the meaning of the definition of a public house.
Okay.
So in Ireland or wherever, England or wherever, a lot of the folks who had these things, they lived above or on the side or something, and they opened up their home and allowed people to come in and drink. So if you go into somebody's house, you don't want somebody in there cutting up.
Right. True.
So that's the definition to me of a pub. And that's what the definition of what I could tolerate would be. I don't like to be around a lot of loud people. I don't like to be around a lot of swearing. I don't like to be around a lot of violence. But if you want to have a good time and a good meal, you want to bring your family, I'll introduce you to every single person at the bar. And we'll have a party. Everybody, when you leave, everybody knows everybody. And when you come in again, if somebody's missing, what happened to to Bobby? What happened to Bonnie?
This place is like Cheers, honestly.
It's like Cheers.
It is.
But it's a real Cheers, And
I'm like Norm here.
Yeah, you are Norm. And every time somebody is missing, every time somebody has a birthday, every time somebody has family in town, they bring them here. Mm-hmm. And then that's another person that you know. And basically what the concept is you build it one brick at a time. You start out with one brick. A place, one of my mentors in Washington, his name's Kamal, and he's from Iran. And he started out one place that he built, he put these little plants everywhere. And as the plants grew, people saw the plants growing. And by the time 2-3 years in, there was all these giant plants. And now the people started with a little tiny shrub. And that was one concept of how he uses the one brick at a time concept to construct a business, and it's one brick at a time, one beer at a time, one relationship at a time.
Right.
And then it grows. And then next thing you know, you have this organic amoeba that everybody's into,
Right.
And that's the secret of the pub. That's the secret of pub life. Mm-hmm. And that's what I believe in,
I'm glad that you cleared that up for me about what pub. I never knew what a pub actually was. I didn't know the definition of it. My introduction to pubs was, and you're from across the bridge. You're from out there. You're from PG, right? Or you're from DC?
I grew up in Pittsburgh until I was 18. I hitchhiked to DC.
Okay.
Until I was probably 40, 41, 42.
Okay.
So the lion's share of my adult life has been in Washington, and I've been running clubs in Washington and bars for most of my life.
Okay. So there was a place on Queens Chapel Road. I forgot what part of Maryland that is, but it was called Carrie's Pub.
Okay.
And I have no idea why I walked into this place the day that I went in there. It was, I was probably 21. I think I was about 21 at the time. And I walked in this place, and it's at Carrie's Pub. I wasn't drinking at the time. I had to slow started drinking. I didn't even start drinking until I was like 32.
Okay.
So I walk into this place, and I get inside, and it's a strip club. Now they were just topless, and they were wearing thongs. They didn't get bottomless, but they got topless.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, pub must be short for pubic.
Wow.
So I'm like, I love this place, so I'm in there and I'm just hanging out or whatever. So I would go other places and it would say blah, 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 pub. And I'm like, oh, strip club time.
You're breaking out ones. You got ones and fives.
Exactly. And I walk in there and everybody has their clothes on. I'm confused. Why are all of the women in here clothed? I don't see a pole anywhere. I don't see a stage. I'm confused.
Where's Carrie?
Exactly. Where's Carrie? So, but then I realized, okay, a pub is not a strip club.
Right.
He just he eventually changed the name of the place because I can imagine how many people walked in there thinking that this was just a regular pub, and then you see all of these naked women in here, or half-naked women.
Do you have the address?
I don't have the address, but I know how to get there.
We'll talk later. All right. So you went to Carrie's Pub.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You think pub was pubic?
No, I didn't. I said that for comedic value. Yeah, like that. No, I didn't think that's what it meant. But I mean, I still was confused about what a pub was.
Yeah,
I didn't know at the time.
Well, again, that could just be my definition, and I'm not going to claim any expertise in this. But from my wife always says, according to my opinion, or in my opinion, a pub is a place that families meet, friends meet. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong.
So, what is your definition of a tavern then?
A tavern, well, there are taverns that you basically you would. A tavern could be another definition of a pub. It's a restaurant, all the same things. Okay. But a tavern, to me, would be there are taverns where you have to be 21 to get in. Mm-hmm. They have a different liquor license. Whereas they don't have to offer food. A lot of them. Some of them do. but many, when I was coming up, did not. And a tavern you get in when you're 21, you can drink. A lot of Pittsburgh bars where I grew up are taverns. You can still smoke in there. There's no kids allowed. And basically it's more a place where you drink, you know. It's like 8 bottles of alcohol. There's a vodka, gin, bourbon, you know. There's none of this, you know, all the crazy stuff that we have now. So, and you mix it with one thing. So it's like rum and Coke, gin and tonic. And it's a big shot of rum, splash of Coke, small glass. And you pound those things, they're like $2 each. And then you go to a nightclub after that. So you start at a place like Cookies. Shout out to Cookies. And then you go to a place that has music and entertainment.
Okay. So what about bar? Because I know earlier you were talking about pub, tavern, bar. So
bars, you know, you go to a bar, you could get arrested at some point.
Okay.
It's not going to always end well, which is part of the experience of a bar. You know, you go there with an expectation. There's going to be a few loud people. There's going to be a few groups of people who are different. But I like them all.
That's where you get in a fight. That's where you leave and you get a DUI.
A little DUI. No, you know, you get in a fight there at a bar. But you're at a bar. I mean, that's half of the fun of being at a bar. I'm going to a bar, Mom. And then, you know what happens. But when I was growing up, we mostly went to clubs. Like we were trying to be, you know, we were going to nightclubs, trying to dance, trying to meet people. And when I say people, I mean
girls. What you mean. Yes.
And then, you know, we danced a little bit. I think I had one move that I could do. In Pittsburgh, you don't have to have a lot of moves. You just have one move. But, you know, and then I started to run nightclubs in D.C. I worked in the summertime, I worked at an outdoor bar in Georgetown, which had 800 seats inside, 800 seats outside. It was a bar where, you know, George Clinton would come. He would be flying by in a helicopter, and you'd know it was George Clinton because they have.
That was the mothership.
Bill Clinton. Sorry, not George Clinton.
Oh, that's why I said the mothership. Because you talking about George Clinton. Okay, got you. All right.
So President Clinton.
President Clinton. Okay.
Would be flying by. He would see all these people out of on this harbor, and he would turn around, drive down in his limo, get out, wave, shake everybody's hand. It was a cool vibe, you know. All the boats would be out there, all the millionaires, all the people who were chasing millionaires and politicians would be there. And I was fortunate enough to work there for almost 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And from there, you know, I worked from March to October. Then the winter comes, and I would go to a nightclub, which is predominantly black, African-American. And I would do that year in, year out. And when I was not there, we would go on vacation to different locations. I'd spend some winters in Brazil or different places. So 2-3 months in Brazil, you come back, you work again. It was a lifestyle when I was much younger and I had no children or no wife.
Right.
You know.
So in Brazil, were you bartending?
No, I was chilling in Brazil. So basically we would rent a house a few blocks off of the beach. And we would just kind of hang out. The real was 6 to 1. So if you go there as a poor American, you immediately got off the airplane. You were, you know, 6 times richer than you were when you got there. So you could easily spend a winter there without really incurring too much debt. And that was the goal, because we only worked basically through the summer, and then in the winter we had to find something to do. And if I was not at one of these nightclubs, I would go to Brazil and chill until the spring came.
So was the move to Brazil during your off season, was that survival? Trying to save money, it's
all survival.
Yeah, okay.
But it's a good way to survive. I mean, the people there are great. It's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. The architecture is beautiful. The people are beautiful, from the kids to the senior citizens. The most beautiful people on earth. And they love living there. They're not trying to be, all of them are not trying to come to America. They just were having a great life, you know.
Right.
And, you know, the food's great. And it's the real 6 to 1. So if you get $1, you get 6 reals, you know.
Wow.
So Heineken, you're walking on the beach, it's 35 cents, you know. You can eat for $2. You can, when we would leave our house in the morning, we'd go downstairs and pick out a chicken, and they would pluck it. And by the time you come back, you'd have a a roasted chicken for $2-3.
Wow.
So it's a good way to survive when you're not bartending.
Yeah.
And I had no responsibilities. I had no children and no family, so it seemed like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. So being in bartending, but just being in, from the time that you were a waiter, then bartending, and now as an owner, I'm sure you've come across some really interesting characters. So
you have no idea. The primary reason for this podcast is to explore some of the interesting characters that I've come across, and I'm going to try to interview them. I'm going to try to get them here. Mm-hmm. The stories that you will hear and the things that I will tell you, you won't believe. The 6 degrees of separation from the most powerful people to what some people consider the most insignificant people are there. Because the people that you meet know everyone.
Right.
The people that I can bring to you to tell you the stories about the people they've met know everyone. And anyone who's anyone, if you drink, there's a story about you, and we know it.
Yes, it is.
And we're going to tell it to you here.
So let's tell a story then.
Well,
I would like to know one of the most interesting, and you can tell a story from something that happened a long time ago where there's no connection to this person. Sure. It won't catch up with this person.
No.
And of course, no names.
No names. But the way that I have traveled many places that I have traveled is from meeting people in our industry. And at the time, you don't. The great thing about pubs and bars and all is you don't always know who is who. Mm-hmm. Everybody's there to have a good time, and some people don't put on any airs or front at all, and they're just in an environment where they can let their hair down and be themselves. Mm-hmm. That is an interesting thing about this business. So some of the people you meet in suspenders and overalls are some of the wealthiest people that you ever meet, and you wouldn't know it because they're trying not to be that guy right then. They're trying to fit in. They're just trying to relax, So in saying that, I've met some interesting people who have opened my eyes up to some possibilities of traveling all over the world, and one of my dearest friends, who I'm not sure that I would be able to say everything about him on this podcast, but he would come to our place when I worked at a place called the Spy Club in Washington, D.C., and he would buy the entire bar a round of drinks. And I thought this was a light-skinned black guy because he looked black, but he was an Arabic gentleman.
Okay,
and he was from one of the countries that I've visited. And when we would hang out, he would pop open a briefcase filled with $100 bills, and he would say, "Before I go home, we have to spend this." And then we would travel all over the country and just have the best time. And then he'd go back to his country. And eventually I went there and I worked with him and opened some bars for him and with him or through him and met some more interesting people. But the bottom line is you meet people that you never would expect to meet and you in circumstances you would ordinarily not be into. And then it opens up your mind to possibilities of other things. And as an African American traveling abroad, which I recommend that everybody does because, the things you experience here are not necessarily what you're going to experience every place. And it's like being on Star Trek where half of you is the green person and half of you is the yellow person. And, now next thing you know, you're on the other side and you're the other side. So part of some of the bars that I was running abroad as an American, they don't look at color necessarily. They look at where you're from. As an American, I was sought after for this industry. And I'm like, so they would say to me, "Oh, Brian, don't let these people in. They're dirty Indians or they're dirty Pakistanis or whatever." Mm-hmm. I'm like, but as an American, African American, you are naturally sort of suspect about anything like that. You're like, what do you mean? They're everybody's people,
Right.
So I had to be placed in a position where I had to I was supposed to enforce a situation where I'm the guy keeping people out because of their ethnicity.
Wow.
And that's an interesting concept because you always think that it's black and white, but it's not always black and white.
Right.
Sometimes it's something else. Sometimes the, European or Arabic versus Filipino or, Indian or whatever. And it really brings home the fact that everybody we're all just people.
Right.
And it's all just a lot of, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Seuss, where the people with the stars on their belly are the good guys. And if you don't have a star upon your belly, you're the bad guy. And then there's a guy that comes to town and he says, oh, I can put a star on your belly. And then once everybody gets a star, it's no longer a cool thing. And then the other people say, well, take these stars off of our bellies, And then the bottom line is the only guy that makes money is the guy that does the transformation. And he rolls out of town. And everybody doesn't know which one they were, the star belly sneeches or the ones without the stars.
Right, yeah.
So that's basically how it is. And it allows you to realize that, and it opens up your mind to the fact that maybe racism isn't as real as we think it is. And maybe it's just more based on some capitalism and people trying to, separate for financial reasons and keeps people separated when really we're all just one people. And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
Speaking of racism, have you ever encountered racism as a waiter, bartender, owner?
Well, I was just telling a story to one of our waiters earlier today where when I had got off that Greyhound bus in Georgetown and I waited tables, I was one of the first African-American waiters in Georgetown at the time. This is 84. I'm sure there were more beforehand, but not very many. But I would say less than a handful. And as I grew in the business, I saw that where the real opportunities were and the real money would be behind the bar. And I'd gone to manager at the time and I said, the bartenders seem to be having a lot better time than the waiters are. And they always have a beautiful girl sitting there next to them. Everybody has a Rolex on. Everybody has a Mercedes or BMW outside. And I am on the Metro. Is there any way that I could bartend? And they would say, there's no black bartenders in Georgetown. I don't even think there's any black bartenders in D.C. And I said, well, why not? And then that was so that was a transition. That was a thing. It was possibly real. It could have been all in my head. I'm not sure. But at the time, I did not know anyone who was African-American who was behind a bar in Georgetown, maybe in all of Washington. I know most of the clubs that were run, most of the clubs that had the black folks in it were also run by people who were not African-American. Mark Barnes, one of my many mentors, was one of the first African-Americans who was bold enough to open his own place and employ. Most of the staff was African-American. Most of the people who went there were African-American. And it was not even a question to him that it should be done. And his story, I remember standing at Sequoia on the waiting, I was on the mezzanine bar. I had 3 customers and I'm reading a Washington Post article about him. He was on the style section and I read it from front to back. And I was just transformed just reading that article about the possibilities of what could happen, who you could be. And I didn't know him, he didn't know me, but I gravitated towards him. And he changed my life in many ways. And he may not know this, but he's been an inspiration to me. And most of the people in our industry know of him, but they don't know him like I know him. And he is an iconic figure who has transformed our industry to what it is today. And when I met him, I'd worked at Houston's for many years, and since then I went to the Spy Club, and we had a happy hour that he was responsible for, and it was from, I think, 7 or 6 to 9. They had a little window of time where the black folks could come in and drink and everything, and then they kick everybody out, and then they would have the night where you do the techno music or whatever. But in that window of time, he had $1 drink specials. So you come in for the first hour or two, you get everything's $1. So everybody's waving their dollars in the air to get your attention, And then it would be like being on The Price is Right. You're just going around grabbing dollars, It was so much fun. And I worked at this little tiny bar in the rear of the building. There were these two kids who worked up front who had been there forever. And they just did a little satellite bar for me that was not even a real bar. And he went to his house and he got a lamp from his house, one of those old lamps. And just to put a light on me, because I didn't even have a light back there. And everybody gravitated towards my bar because, number one, I knew what they wanted. I knew how they wanted it. And I was the only person that sort of looked like them there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And from there, we just, he opened Republic Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
He opened Dream, and then I think it was called Love after that.
Yeah, it's Love after.
And now he has a 14th, the park at 14th or park, something like that. And so I've worked with him. So I worked at all of his places with him. While I was building this, out here in Denton, I would drive 3 hours, an hour and a half each way, back and forth to get there. So I would build this place in the morning. I would drive there at 1:30 or, to get there to D.C. by 3, 4 o'clock. We'd set up the bars. I'd work until 3 in the morning. Then I'd drive back here, and I'd get home about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I'd have to do that 3, 4 days a week while we were building the Market Street Public House.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll never forget that time. I'll never forget the opportunity that he gave me to have my own thing. And I remember, I'll never forget the last day that I saw him before I moved here permanently, as I went up to him and I said, I'm never going to really see you again because it's so far away outside of D.C. And I just want to say thank you for what you've done. And he looked at me and he said, don't thank me. Thank me by succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thanks that you can give me by winning,
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget that, And a lot of people don't know him to be that way.
Right.
A lot of people know him as a gruff businessman who's all about his money and about business, but the guy has a heart of gold, and I'll never forget that.
Yeah. So that's what brought you here. So now that's where we are right now, the Market Street Pub in Denton, Maryland. Tell me about that transition when you left D.C. and you set up shop here.
Okay. Well, I was in a 670 square foot condominium, which was my bachelor pad. And I tried for probably 12 years to buy my own place. And I could never sort of get the finances right. Nothing ever worked out. I tried. I lived in basements with spiders. I was moving from Pittsburgh, hitchhiking to D.C. I didn't really have a home base. So in the waiter business, a lot of folks just stay with each other, help each other out. So I slept on more couches, lived in more basements than I care to admit. And when I was able to finally get enough money for my own place, I bought this place in Glover Park, which is a 670 square foot condominium. And couldn't believe that I finally had my own property.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually bought the place next door. Then 2 years later, I bought the place next door. So I had 2 properties. This is at the peak of when everyone was leaving Washington, when I think Mayor Barry was reelected. Mm-hmm. And there was a plethora of properties for no money, really. I mean, I bought the place for $69,000. The place next door I bought for $80,000. And up there, both appraised like at $400,000 now. But at the time, D.C. was a different place. It wasn't, did not transition yet. So, the reason I moved here is I was helping a guy, good friend of mine, build a place in Federalsburg. And the place he built was, by the time it was said and done, he'd already had some of the restaurant equipment, but by the time it was said and done, he spent $24,000 on the place. At the same time, I was having my kitchen remodeled in D.C., and just coincidentally, it cost me $24,000 to do the remodel that I did. So I started to have a different mindset on the possibilities of what I should be doing with my money. I said, So the same price that it cost you to open a restaurant, I spent having my kitchen remodeled. And it gave me a different perspective, and it said maybe I should be a little bit more responsible with what I'm doing here, you know. So because he lived in Federalsburg, and I always enjoyed driving out there, helping him put this place together. Neighboring town was Denton. I'd never heard of Denton, Maryland, but I figured it was close enough to Federalsburg, so it might be okay. So we bought a place here, sight unseen, drove down the main street, saw this place on the left that I thought was a restaurant. I said, okay, well, this looks like a place I'll be hanging out. So at least, this is close to civilization I'm going to get. Pretty rural area. And I came in here, and it was not what I thought it was going to be. It was sort of a greasy spoon diner, had a really low ceiling, few vinyl chairs up front, and more of a breakfast and lunch place. And when the place came for sale, I jumped in line right away and put in an offer to purchase it. That offer was not accepted because I think they looked at me and thought I was a kid and there's no way I'm going to be able to afford this. They're like, who are you coming here trying to buy this place? So I had a good friend. His name was Brendan Kelly. He owns the Irish Times in Washington, D.C. Iconic place, been there like 30, 40 years. Everybody knows the Irish Times. Everybody knows the Kelly family. They've since accepted me as part of their family, and I'm grateful for it. But I had a roommate, and her boyfriend would always go St. Patrick's Day, 6 o'clock in the morning, stand in line at the Irish Times to get there. I'm like, why are these people at 6 o'clock in the morning going to this bar? What's this pub thing that they're doing? What's this? What's the draw? And it's just the way they are. It's just pubs generate a following, and it's something that you can't explain, and it's a family thing, and it's belonging to something maybe a little bigger than yourself, but you don't know it all the time, So I figured, okay, everybody loves these pubs, so there has to be a market for it. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. I've got 3 kids. How am I going to survive without driving 2 hours back and forth to D.C.?
Right.
And it just seemed like a no-brainer. So when the possibility to buy this came up again, I brought in my friend Brendan Kelly, who owned the Irish Times. He has the Irish credibility that I was lacking. He came here. They sold it to us right away because he had a background in this that I did not. But I'd done it on a different level. But because of his heritage and his family history and what he could bring to the table, it seemed like more of a no-brainer to them and less risky than just trusting me to do it when, I didn't have that background. Right. I had more of a nightclub background than he did. And it just lends itself to being a pub just because of the town, and it's more low-key and it's more family-oriented. So I get what they were doing when they did that. But through the years, we've grown, and now we've become part of the community, and we've not looked back since. We've since gone from a place that held 90 seats to a place that holds almost 400 seats. And, the events we do, from concerts to murder mysteries, trivia nights, you name it, it's wide open. So just there's a lot of possibilities that some of them we not even explored yet. Like, this is our first podcast. You guys are going to do a podcast here in a few weeks. Right. We're looking forward to that as well. So no telling what will come from this experience.
Yeah, this isn't your average pub.
No, and you're not your average host.
Speaking of which, because I like to just like all of a sudden just make a left turn.
Okay, let's do it.
Tell me about a time that you have had to be a barstool therapist.
Well, that depends on the day and how much I've had to drink. But no, there was it goes with the territory. There's something about the separation of that 3-foot radius where people feel comfortable, women and men, where you're out of reach, so it's less threatening. But there's some science behind bars, and I'm not really sure what it is, but there's something about the separation that allows people to open up.
It's the alcohol.
It's the alcohol. But without that separation, you can grab somebody. What'd you say? Now, this is more something about the fact that there's a barrier. Mm-hmm. And that barrier allows people to open up and express a side of themselves that they might not normally express. And a lot of times after they express it, they're like, I can't believe I said all that. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? And that's part of the secrets that you keep as a bartender is you don't put everybody's information out there. You keep it to yourself. Mm-hmm. You have a relationship with these people. And it grows from the trust that they have and the fact that you keep their secrets.
Right. Yeah. And I understand that. I understand you don't want to keep somebody's secrets, but do it. Tell us about the time. I want to hear a story. And it doesn't have to be anything recent. It could be something from, the past.
Some of these things I don't know if this is a PG podcast. I don't know what kind of part. It might be.
No.
There might be snippets.
Let's go R. Let's go R rated.
Bro, I have the stories that I have. I'm going to let other people tell the stories. Okay, all right. I have to keep my secrets because people still have to come here and eat, and spend money.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. Let's not mess up the money.
No.
Let's not mess.
Where do I start, man? I mean, it's been, let's see, I'm 60 years old, right? I've done this since I was 21. Mm-hmm. So that's 40 years of stories. It's 40 years of forgetting more than I remember.
Right.
40 years of, my God, I can't believe that happened, and we made it through that alive, Mm-hmm. I would have to sit down with a piece of paper and write this out because nothing's coming to mind. It could be the fact that I'm nervous and I'm on camera. And I don't know how this is going to turn out. I'm nervous.
And the funny thing is, you got the wine to help calm your nerves. You haven't had any of it, but you have not come across as nervous.
It's a prop.
Yeah. You have not come across as nervous at all. You've done great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you've done great.
Well, you're really good at this, so you've put me at ease.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. But as time goes on, I will be able to be less nervous, and I will open up, and I will say so many things. And I'd rather other people tell their stories because just the people that I've been in touch with and in contact with, you just won't believe what's going to happen. You just won't believe the things that you will hear. And it should be documented. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that anyone is thoroughly documenting this bar-pub experience thoroughly and what we have to offer and what we bring to the table and what, as an industry, we are doing to keep things in order and keep people sane in an insane time, in an insane environment that we live in. Mm-hmm. And I think it's underrated, and I would not change one thing about it. I just think that we provide a service that is needed in the world, especially today, Mm-hmm. And it sounds corny, but it's the truth.
Yeah, it is an escape for a lot of people. It definitely is.
It's an escape.
It's been an escape for me.
Yeah.
I have, oftentimes, like when I come over here, I'm finished. I just finished training, personal training or group training classes, and exercising and getting people healthy. Whether it's nutrition classes that I'm giving or exercise classes, and then I come over here and I get something to drink.
Well,
but it also is like sometimes I need a break from that world.
Sure.
And the world that the pub creates for me, the atmosphere, the people here, the alcohol, the bartenders, the owner, like everything, it creates a perfect world for me. Yeah. And I'm able to just live in this perfect world and escape everything else. And I can imagine it's the same thing for a lot of other people. Sure. They get to escape their reality. And the reality isn't so favorable, but they're not saying that mine isn't. My reality is great, but for a lot of people, their reality isn't so favorable, so they get to walk in here into a perfect world.
Sure, and we do that intentionally. I mean, we don't have a lot of politics on the TVs. We focus mostly on sports.
Sports, yeah.
I am a Steeler fan. Bleed black and gold, but I don't promote that. I don't have any paraphernalia anywhere. I keep it neutral. I also like the Ravens. People can't understand it. My second team is the Ravens.
It is a little weird for you to be a Steelers and a Ravens fan, but I get it. You moved from Pittsburgh to Maryland, so all right, I'll allow it. I mean, me and Chris, we're Commanders fans, so
that's my third team.
Okay, all right.
But you guys have to pull together a good season before
Hopefully,
this could be the season.
This could be it.
Probably not.
It's good.
So the energy that you bring when you come into the building is one of the highlights of my day. And I can't even express to you how happy I am when I see you come in here because, number one, you're hilarious. And you're always positive, and you always are doing something different. Yeah, I don't know what the next thing you're going to come in. I opened an airline, I don't know what your next thing's going to be. It's always going to be something, And I'm like, this brother has more energy than I'm exhausted just listening to what he can do.
But one of the reasons that I absolutely love coming in here is because of the atmosphere that you create, the tone that you have set, the standard that you have set for this place.
Thank you.
It's amazing. There are two bars that I frequent. There's this one, and then there's one that is in Bridgeville, Delaware, and it really depends on where I am as to which bar I go to. So if I'm in this area, I come here. If I'm out there, then I go there. So it's just this is like home for me. So like I said earlier, this is Cheers.
Yes.
This is Cheers. I love coming here. I love and again, the standard that you have set for this place, it is it's a reflection of the people that come in here.
Yes, so that's exactly right.
Yeah, you see the people that come in here. Everybody has the same mentality. Everybody is so very welcoming and warm. And it's just a great place. It's like a family atmosphere.
It's contagious. It really is.
It is. It is. It really is. And I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate this place. Yeah.
Do we continue on this path of Jameson, or do we veer off to Grand Marnier?
I mean, we can veer off to the Grand Marnier, and then will.
I was explaining to you the differences in the Grand Marniers that we carry here. So we have the 80 proof, we have the Centennial, which is the 100-year, and then we have the 150th anniversary Grand Marnier. This was set aside for King Louis himself to drink. Because he didn't want to drink the regular stuff everybody else is drinking. Well,
in my mind, I think that I'm a king. So what we can do is we can take a break here. We can get the Grand Marnier.
It's $65 a shot.
Oh, shit.
But
look,
it's on us.
Our first curse word. Okay. And we can try that, and then I'm going to turn up the questions a little bit.
Okay, let's turn it up.
All right, Larry, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. So we decided to take a little break because we wanted to pull out something special.
Yes.
It's a special occasion. So you want to tell them exactly what this is that we are sitting here?
Well, I don't know exactly what it is. All right? I'm no expert. And I don't know if it's King Louis or King whomever, but broad concepts, we're talking a brand of cognac that the King of France decided, hey, I don't want to drink the regular Grand Marnier that the regular people are drinking. Make me a special Grand Marnier that I can drink. This was for the king and his court. I don't know which king. I know it was France. I know this is from France. I know it's triple distilled, orange liqueur. I know that it is cognac. I know that cognac comes from grapes. And that's all I know. All right? And I know it's expensive.
So the reason that we're doing this is because Grand Marnier is my favorite drink.
Yes.
And you've had this bottle for how long?
That particular bottle I've had probably for 10 years.
For 10 years.
I think this is the first time we've cracked it because most of my clientele aren't going to spend this much for this.
Okay, so we're going to sip this and see how good this is.
So a good friend of mine gave me these glasses. I don't know if this is a Scotch glass or whiskey. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of cool.
You know what? I think it's a rum glass because I have a glass from some friends of mine who have a distillery.
Yeah.
In St. Michael's, and these are the glasses. But it's basically what they do is rum.
Okay. What's the name of the company?
It's a Lions.
Lions Rum.
Yeah, Lions Rum.
I'm familiar with them.
Yeah, so they but I have a glass that looks exactly like this
Really?
from them. Yeah.
And you drink rum out of it?
Yeah.
Exclusively.
I put other stuff in it. I'll put Grand Marnier in it.
I figured you might.
Yeah, I'll put tequila in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first you give it a little sniff.
Okay.
You can almost get a little buzz from that. You know?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
All right. Take it. Are we doing the whole thing or just we're sipping?
I'm just sipping.
Bro.
I'm going to get indigestion.
Okay.
I got to sip.
I don't get it.
Plus, I want this to last.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I don't drink another one pretty fast.
Yeah, I want to treat this like it's sex. I don't want it to be over that fast, you know.
I don't either way.
Yeah, so, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, my gosh.
Right?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking my time with this.
It hits everything.
Yeah. I want this to last as long as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good sex right there. That's that
premarital.
Hold on.
Premarital.
Yeah, that is premarital. Yeah, this is almost a threesome. Like this is like.
I don't know anything about that.
Oh yeah, me neither.
That's good though, isn't it?
This is good.
Yeah.
That is really good, really smooth.
It's gonna be hard to go back to regular Grand Marnier.
It is. It is. But expensive as this is, I have no choice.
Back. Give me a regular.
Yeah.
Grand Marnier.
Yeah. This is really good though. This is really good. Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you. You know, being that we come from Washington D.C. and most people that I hang out with in D.C., we don't really eat in. We eat out every meal, unfortunately, every day, from brunch to lunch to dinner, 7 days a week. Yeah, so the short answer is we love to go out and eat every meal, which is unfortunate because it's expensive, and you could probably save a lot more money if you stay home and eat a few meals. But if we are going out, and it doesn't have to be an expensive meal, but we eat out constantly. The group of people that I generally hung out with, my wife is part of that group, and she's not for all the things she does, cooking is probably not her favorite thing to do.
Okay.
That's a nice way to say that she don't know how to cook.
She can, if she wants to do it, she can do it, but she's not going to be happy.
Right.
She's going to be mad every flip of that spatula, like, I can't believe I'm cooking for you after all that I do. I'm like, okay, let's go out to eat. No, but she can cook, but she prefers to be out. And so we go out to eat constantly. And I love just looking at what, when you go to a restaurant, the personality of the person is in the restaurant. You can see their concept of what they're trying to do. And that's what I love, to look around and see what somebody's come up with. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be anything, but you can feel what they're trying to portray. They're trying to get a vibe. They're trying to get a feel. And that's the fun for us, and we go probably to a half dozen restaurants in Easton weekly. We go to D.C. all the time for restaurants. And we're always looking, St. Michael's, Oxford, all have great restaurants.
Yeah, they do.
And we, the one thing that we allow ourselves is the opportunity to eat out. And we probably do it more than most, I would say.
Will you be bringing some of those owners of those restaurants and bars on the show?
That is the idea, is to sit here and grill them like he's grilling me and get all their information and share it with the world, because I'm telling you, the stories in this business are unbelievable, from the people you meet to the experiences you have and the places you go because of the people you meet. There's nothing like it, and it needs to be documented, and I am going to document it.
So, speaking of some stories, I said before our last break we were going to turn it up a little bit.
Turn it up.
Let's turn it up.
Let me get this shot in me first.
Yeah, go ahead and get that shot.
I'm not going to do that.
You sure?
Yeah. Okay.
You may need it for this question I'm about to ask. All right.
All right.
So I'm gonna give me a little bit, son.
He's a fast drinker.
You gotta slow down.
I know. So
I'll get him going.
over the years, you've been in this business for a long time.
Yes.
How many boobs have you seen as a result of somebody drinking too much?
The answer is never enough. But as a happily married man, I've seen plenty. Yeah, that's part of the business as well. But, that's a long time ago when I was a single man.
Mm-hmm.
That was a par for the course. And mostly in D.C., that atmosphere, the college atmosphere.
Right.
Everybody's free and it's hot outside and sweaty and just want to let loose.
Right. Yeah, because this place right here
No
really
boobs. No boobs.
Yeah, it's not happening here. Not at Mark's. Yeah, this isn't the place for that.
It has happened here, but
Really?
well, I'll tell you, when we first opened, it was a long time ago.
I gotta start coming here more often. That's what's going down.
It's not. But I do hear that back in the day there was a thing in the back bar where that was a thing that would happen. But here that rarely happens. But
Right.
It can happen, but we don't encourage that
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah. It is more of a family
This
atmosphere.
is family. It's
yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
You don't want to see that.
Right. Yeah. This isn't the place for that.
Nope.
Yeah. But over the years, you've definitely encountered that, though.
It was a long time ago and a place far, far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
a Star Wars reference.
There is a bar that I go to. The other bar I was telling you that I go to in Bridgeville, and they have this sign up that says, I can't remember everything that it says, but it says basically you have to pay for certain things if your wife calls the bar asking if you're there. So it's like, for $1.
Right. Never heard of him.
Never heard of. Yeah, exactly. Then it'll be like, he just left.
Right.
He just, have you ever had an instance where a wife or girlfriend or some significant other even husband or whatever has called the bar looking for their spouse or significant other?
I've had a mother call and ask, is her daughter sitting at the bar?
Really?
Is my daughter there? She got on a pink sweater. And I was like, is this a trick? Is this really happening? So, yes, that has happened, but it does not happen often.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really answer the phone after 9 p.m. because the kitchen's closed. So there's really no reason to answer the phone.
Mm-hmm. And that's typically when people are in here drunk.
Well, they're drinking. I would not say they're drunk. I would say they're enjoying a beverage, not more than 2 or 3.
Right. Yes. You said that several times, 2 or 3. That's the cutoff there.
There's a standard in the industry where there's the 100, I think it's a 150-pound man standard. You have 15 minutes per drink to digest through your body for you to remain able to function properly, statewide.
Have you ever had a time when you had to cut somebody off?
We cut folks off nightly, and generally people know when it's time to be cut off. And, I don't have a problem with doing it. I think it's part of the unfortunate part of the industry because part of the reason they're here is you're encouraging them to have a beverage.
Right.
And then you flip it and you say you've had too many beverages. So, it's a fine line, but one that I will happily cross because the last thing I want somebody to do is go outside, get in an accident, and ruin somebody's life or ruin some family's life.
Yeah.
Is it worth the $8 extra drink? Not to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we have a community responsibility as well as a responsibility to ourselves and my attorneys and everything to keep this place going. So, I'd like to be here for 30 years. I've always said that. That was my goal going into this, to do a business. The Irish Times, when we bought this place, was there for 30 years, and I thought that was a great standard to set, and I would like to continue that. So sometimes we lose in the short term where other folks might win, but long term, I think that is our goal, to be here for at least 30 years. And you don't do that by making shortcuts and getting people all drunk, sending them out in the community and having an accident.
Right.
Could it happen? Absolutely.
Right.
Do we try our best to avoid it? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. You ever had to take anybody's keys?
All the time.
Yeah.
We take people's keys. What happens sometimes, you drive people home. They get home. They say, I don't have my car. They come back, get their car, drive home and have an accident. Happened more than once. Some folks, we hide their keys. Their wives come back and get their keys. Then they get a divorce. So it's not always like on a Disney movie, but
Right.
it's a necessary evil of the business because you're serving people a controlled substance. And
Right.
you're not at your best judgment when you're consuming sometimes. So,
Right.
We've all been there. But as the person who's supposed to be sober and responsible, it's my job to make sure that you get home as safely as possible. And hopefully get some food in you, and some water in you, and some time in you so that you can sit here. There was a place I worked in D.C. I think it was called Love or Dream at the time. They had an entire detox facility. So there was a room as big as this dedicated to kids who were too drunk to drive. And they would sit with a bucket in front of them, and there'd be a big giant black security guy daring them to get up and move, or they'd be arrested.
Wow.
And they would sit there and they would get all of the things out of them that were in them that was prohibiting them from being responsible, and a few hours of water or coffee or what have you. And they'd be fine to drive home, or they'd get a ride home, And we called that room Detox.
Wow.
And you could do a reality show from that room.
I bet you could.
It was so crazy. And nobody would even understand how wild it was. But I swear it was one of the most interesting rooms, and some of the most interesting people in those rooms just sitting in front of a bucket, puking up their guts because they could not handle their alcohol. These are mostly kids.
Right. Yeah.
But you got to learn. You got to learn how to drink.
What was the most interesting argument between a husband and wife that you've ever heard at the bar?
Interesting argument between a husband and wife. Well, when we first opened this place, I think it probably, on some level, to many people who did not know that we were not a swingers bar, they considered this a good place to have a swingers bar. So there were initially some swingers. Not as much now as there was then, but when we first opened, and probably because we were new and, it was a new enterprise, that they said, this is probably a good place to meet other interesting people like us. So we had a demographic that would come here to swing as a bit. And the arguments between those folks were, when people chose different people that they didn't necessarily, their partner did not agree with, that could probably become a problem at some point. But that was probably some of the most interesting arguments that I would hear, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes all the sense
anymore.
in the world. Yeah.
Long time ago, 15 years ago.
That's
now
funny.
It's all families.
It's all family, yeah. So you pretty much come in here and kind of change the culture.
Well, I put my spin on the culture. So every place I'd worked in D.C. or abroad, you see something cool, and you say to yourself, man, if I ever have my own place, that's one thing I'm going to do, that they do. I've worked at probably 24, 30 places.
Okay.
And everything that I've picked and chosen a few of the things that I always thought, man, if I ever could put together enough money to get a place, I'm going to do that, and people are going to love it. And some people do, some people don't. But a lot of people can appreciate it because it is my experience in this business and what I've seen and what I've, come to respect and acknowledge as what I want to be a part of. And in most of it's all positive. Like we have a big giant bowl out on the bar of lollipops. I worked at a place called Old Glory back in the day in Georgetown. I opened it.
I'm familiar with that place.
Old Glory.
Yeah.
All right, listen to this. I started at Old Glory. I left Houston's to go to Old Glory. I don't know why I did that. But they said, hey, this is an Elvis bar. it's all Elvis all the time. Elvis on the TVs, Elvis playing throughout. You got to wear cowboy boots. You got to listen to Elvis. And for some reason, I thought that was going to be a good idea. I mean, I left a place where I was making $500 to $800 a night, and I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go work at this Elvis bar." So I bought a pair of Nakona cowboy boots, and I don't know if you ever broken in a pair of cowboy boots while you bartended, but it's not
most comfortable.
It's not the most comfortable. By the end, they're great, and they feel like you're wearing leather socks, but the moment where you're breaking those suckers in, it is not the most comfortable thing. So I'm working at this Elvis bar, and I'm just listening to Elvis all day, every day, from 4 o'clock until 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, and there was one song that was not Elvis that they played, and I looked so forward to that song. It was like, oh my God, this is my one moment of zen where I'm not listening. So I think a part of why they were doing that was to try to keep the demographic a certain way, where they would have a mix. It was a rib joint and a barbecue chicken joint.
Okay.
And I think one of the questions was, well, how do you keep it diverse? And I think their solution was, we're just going to play Elvis all the time. And it worked. And I was the only person in there listening to Elvis. And so, I lasted there probably about 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. And I was like, I got to get out of here. So I moved to California then after that, because it was winter, it was cold. And I said, this is my opportunity to try something different. So I got on a Greyhound bus. It was $90 one way. And I moved to L.A. on that bus. Now, the bus caught on fire midway. It was when you can smoke on a bus. I don't know if you can do that anymore.
Probably not.
Nope.
No.
Seat caught on fire. They had to change buses. We get to California. I have a duffel bag and my Nakona cowboy boots that I had since broken in from working at that Elvis bar. And I stayed with a buddy for 6 months on his floor in Beverly Hills. And he was supposed to get me a job at the Cheesecake Factory. But I went for the interview, and I guess I did not smile enough during the interview. And she said I was not friendly enough to work there. But I'd been in this business for 15 years, and I didn't think I still had to smile, but apparently I did. And I arrive off the Greyhound bus. I got my duffel bag and my cowboy boots, and I go into his apartment. I'm walking through his complex, and I'm looking to see which apartment is his, and I'm looking sort of through the windows, and I'm walking and clicking with my boots on. I got my duffel bag, and all of a sudden I see these 2 police officers with their guns drawn, and I'm in Beverly Hills now, and they're tiptoeing through the community looking for the culprit. And I'm sitting on the stairs above them, and I could see them tiptoeing through the community looking for the person that they're looking for. And I started to think, are they looking for me? And I screamed, I yelled down, I was like, are you guys looking for me? And they shined a flashlight, and they said, come down the stairs. And we just got a call that there's a burglar in this neighborhood, and, you fit the description. So I showed them my ID. They said, do you have any weapons on you? I said, well, no, if this is how the police treat you, I probably should get a weapon, but I don't have any right now. And they laughed. But that was my first experience moving to California. Now, the day before I left California was the day before the Rodney King riots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, so that was my experience. I never found a job in California. I tried everything. I tried to pump gas, work at a video store. It was just a time when there were just no jobs available. So, but that was me trying to leave Washington and move to California to try to pursue a different career. But all the bartenders and waiters there were actors and actresses, and they needed jobs where they could eat too.
So when I was 18, I lived right up the street from a strip club called the Foxy Playground in D.C.
Been there.
Yeah. Loved the Foxy Playground. Oh my gosh, it was the most amazing place on earth. And you only had to be 18 to get in there. You didn't have to be 21. You could be 18 to get in there.
Drink beer and wine.
Yeah. So, but of course, I wasn't drinking at the time.
Yeah.
Now, eventually I get addicted to the strip club, and I just want to always be in the strip club. So now I'm trying to find other strip clubs to go into, but of course everywhere else you have to be 21.
Okay.
So I devised a plan. What I decided to do was I would go into the strip club. I go straight to the bartender.
Sure.
I ask for the owner, and they say, "Is everything okay?" I'm like, yeah, I just need to talk to him about some things. They would bring the owner out. Owner was like, "Yeah, you got some questions?" But like, yeah, I have some ladies that want to dance here, but I just wanted to come check the place out to see if it was, cool or whatever. I said, "Do you mind if I just kind of sit here and just kind of see how things go, and then at some place maybe we can set up a meeting?" I said, "I have some beautiful women that would love to dance here." They were like, "Yeah, definitely."
Okay.
And then the owners would 100% of the time the owners would say, "Would you like a drink?"
Right.
Now, at the time I wasn't
You didn't
drinking, so
drink.
I would always decline it. But that really was my way. I was 19, 20 years. I wasn't old enough to be in there.
Sure.
But that was my way of tricking them into letting me stay.
Okay.
Right? So now, had I accepted a drink, then they would have gotten caught. They would have been in trouble.
Yeah.
So my question for you
Yes.
now is, have you ever been in a situation where you accidentally given someone who was underage a drink?
Well, not intentionally, but anything could happen accidentally. And that would be if they had an ID that was such a great fake that they could fake me out. Now,
Right.
could that be a possibility? I'm sure it has happened. If we found them that to be the case, would we allow them ever to come back? No.
Right.
So, in a small town like this, people don't want to take the risk of
Right.
not being allowed to come back. There's like 2 or 3 bars you can ever go to. And if you upset the person who has one of those 2 of those 3 of those bars, they're going to tell everybody else. And nobody's going to let you go anywhere.
Right.
You're going to be sitting in your house or getting drunk out the back of your truck. So, has it happened? Probably. Would it happen as often as in D.C.? There's a mass market? Probably not, because most of these folks know each other. They've been to high school together. But we're susceptible to that sort of thing. Somebody just came in here today with Maryland State, and they said, you have a tobacco license. We're getting ready to send a minor in here to try to buy cigarettes.
Wow.
We used to sell cigars. We also used to sell cigarettes about 10, 15 years ago. So is anything possible? Could anything slip through the cracks at any moment where somebody is busy and does? Absolutely. I'm not going to even pretend that we're impervious to that sort of thing. Do we take an extra effort in preventing that because of the amount of weight that we hold in this town and the amount of debt that I have to all the banks in this town for allowing me to operate on this level?
Right.
Absolutely. So, we do take precautions, but we're not immune to being duped as well as anybody else. But if somebody has a great ID, they're using their older sister's ID and they look like their older sister, we could be tricked. And, I'm sure it's happened, but not very often.
Yeah, I used to use my cousin's jail ID sometimes, but
Jail ID?
Yeah, he had his jail ID. He's about 5 years older than me.
Is that state issued? That's state issued, I guess.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we were in
has to be a
DC.
state issued ID.
We were in DC, so just
DC is kind of different because you can almost, unless you sideswipe a police officer while you're drunk driving, they don't really pull you over. Because there used to be a 0 tolerance policy in D.C., so it was understood that you're going to go to a restaurant, you're probably going to have a glass of wine or two,
Right.
so they didn't really bother you. I think now it's, if you blow, I don't know what the blow is now, but 0.8. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
That seems kind of high.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is 0.8.
Yeah, it just used to be 0. You can't drink and drive in D.C., but
Right.
I think when Anthony Williams became mayor, one of his supporters got pulled over after having a glass of wine at a party, and it's just like
They changed it.
it could be. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you know of anybody who has left your bar and has gotten a DUI or even worse?
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but generally, I think the rule is that it's the last place you leave. And I'm not so sure how many times we've been the last place someone has left. A lot of folks in this town, the tricky part is they have a bottle underneath their seat of their car.
Okay.
Or their truck.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They come in, there's a bottle under their truck. They do a few shots before they get in. They watch the show or the concert or whatever, and then they might have a drink or two, and then they go home. They go in their car, they have a few more. So anything's possible.
Right.
Do I, is that the unfortunate part of this business? And do I lose sleep every night thinking about sort of things like that? Absolutely. And, on St. Patrick's Day and New Year's Eve and all these events, everybody says, "Oh, I bet you had a great night. You made all this money and all that." Only thing that is on my mind is I wonder if everybody got home safely. And I swear to you, it just keeps me up, because I am responsible for these folks getting home, and there's only so much you can do,
Yeah.
We have tips classes where we're trained to assess the alcohol level of folks, but if someone leaves here and they have a bottle under their seat of their truck or their car and they keep drinking and driving, or they go to another place and they can't remember the last place, or they get pulled over and they say, "Where the last place you were?" and they say, "Here," then we're somewhat responsible, and that's probably one of the darker parts of this business that I try to avoid, which is why I encourage people to eat. I encourage them to not have as many drinks as they could at other bars. I mean, could we make twice as much money if we had happy hours and drink specials and all these things? Absolutely. But do we try to encourage that behavior? We do not. So people say, "Well, why don't you have a happy hour where you do 2-for-1 beers and $5 this and that?" Because we don't want you to leave here intoxicated. And
Right.
that's it.
Yeah.
So we lose in many ways, but hopefully on some level we win, and we'll make it to that 30-year mark,
Yeah. Yeah. And that actually, I wanted to get into that. I wanted to get to the darker side of this, what it does to you mentally and emotionally, knowing that sometimes somebody may leave and they may not be in the best condition to drive.
Yeah.
Like what does that do to you when you go home and lay down at night? It's like but you said you lose sleep.
There is no sleep. There is
Yeah.
no laying down at night. I sit up and I worry, and I wait for the phone, and the next day I worry some more. And the grapevine in this town is very small, and we're connected to the police department, and we know what happens to, where and when what happens, and I kind of hold my breath, and I do wait for that call, and will that call come someday? Maybe, that is the downside of this business, but you try to focus on the upside of the business. The upside is that a lot of people that we've had coming here for the last 17 years, we've seen when they were 5 years old. Now they're 21 and they're able to sit at the bar and have a conversation when all they were able to do before was have lollipops at the bar,
Right.
And I joke with everyone and say, "Give Uncle Brian a hug. I'm your," and then they come back and they're all big and they forget about me. I'm like, "You don't remember we were really good friends when you were 5 years old, but now you're an adult. You don't have any time for me." That is a funny thing to me, and just to see people grow up, and they've been here for this long, and we've been here for this long. It's just a blessing, and I could not thank God or enough for putting me in a position where I could affect people's lives and make a change, and have a dream that has been fulfilled. I mean, my whole life people would say, "Why you work so hard? Why are you so angry?" I was angry because I knew that I could do this, but nobody would give me a chance. And to have the chance is it's a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. So sticking with the darker side of this, tell me about some of the sacrifices that you've had to make.
Well, I think most of my sacrifices have been with my family and having to be here instead of there, and missing a lot of basketball games and football games, or a lot of sporting events, a lot of spelling bees, a lot of time where if I did not have the wife that I have who knew the industry that I'm in, it would never have worked out. And I see why the divorce rate could be so high in this business, because it's like a baby that never sleeps. You have to put a pacifier in his mouth every 20, 30 minutes. Unless you're prepared for that lifestyle, it's not the life that you can live. And I try to explain this to people all the time who want to open a bar or restaurant. It's a different animal, and you have to be that person who loves that animal. And I do love that animal. I am that animal. It is who I am. And I could do it blindfolded, where people struggle. I could decorate. I could do this whole town over again, and make a new place in every location easily. Broad strokes, but not detail strokes. My wife is detail oriented, and I'm the person who can make things happen broadly. But for me, it's a no-brainer, and it's easy to do. But I would not recommend it for the faint of heart, because you're going to sacrifice your family, you're going to sacrifice your relationships, you're going to sacrifice your friends. But if your friends and your family are part of that business, then it all works out. And my friends and family have been a part of this since its inception. So for me, it's worked out beautifully. My kids can wait tables here and run circles around everybody else. They've been here since they were 5 years old. They know the menu, they know the struggles.
How old are they now?
I have a 20-year-old, an 16-year-old, and an 18-year-old.
Okay.
And my daughter, she's at Tulane University. She just got back from Ireland. She's there for a month for studying for classes. She's off to Brazil to help some humanitarian effort. I have a daughter that's going to Towson, and I have a 16-year-old son who is he's at Gunston, which is a school in Centerville. So blessings have been that I've been able to send them to a nice school and a nice community. They're raised well, they're safe. There's not a lot of crime. There's not a lot of opportunity for crime, but they see me work, and they know that Dad's tired, and they know that they want to help Dad not be as tired.
Yeah. So
your shot's getting low.
It is getting low.
Chris is over there drinking a non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, I'm good. I got a lot of traveling to do once I'm
All right. Respect.
My other jobs have been calling me and texting me for the past 2 hours.
Yeah. Let them know you're doing your important job right now. They can wait.
2 emergency work orders come through. I can't send my subcontractors out there because they're busy and tied up, so I got to go do it myself. So they'll just have to wait.
So that to me says somebody's making some money.
It doesn't sound like somebody's making some money
Making
yet.
some real money. I'm sitting here selling chicken tenders. He got subcontractors.
I can't afford to put the 1,800 Grand Marnier on the table. Right now.
Well, I'm just going to give him a little tiny shot, just a little baby shot.
I think you're a little bit ahead of where I'm at right now.
Well, we are going to get ready to wrap up soon, but
All right.
Before we do, what are your plans for this podcast? Because going forth, you're going to be in this seat.
Yes.
And you're going to be the one interviewing people.
I will. Well, my plan, I have a good friend. His name's Jeff Washington. And he is probably one of the best guitarists I've ever heard or met personally. He's toured with Melba Moore. He's toured with folks all throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today he's still one of the hottest guys I've ever heard play. He's producing the soundtrack for my podcast, and I'm really cannot wait to hear what he comes up with. I'm going to interview folks in this industry, in my 40 years plus in this industry, having them sit here, tell me the stories that I've been trying not to tell you.
Right. I was thinking to myself, I sure hope that they open up and tell the stories that you wouldn't tell.
I have a lot of
Once he
stories.
start hearing everybody else's stories,
Yeah.
he's going to want to chime in with
Some of my stories. I can't,
See, part of the
I can't
problem,
tell a lot
you
of
see
my
how
stories.
much wine he has still in that glass? That's part of the problem right there. We got to get him lick it up a little bit.
That's 'cause he's just
I
coming
can
off
drink
fast.
a lot of wine.
That's because he's just coming off a fast.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes, that's right. But I would like to interview folks in this industry. I'd also, once I interview most of the folks in this industry that I know, and the people who want to do this industry, I'm going to try to talk them off a ledge and say, why on earth would you want to do? I'm going to try to explain to them what they're about to try to undertake, and hopefully they make a better decision. But if they do not, I would like to interview them 6 months in and say, I told you so, and see what they said. They were like, you were right. I shouldn't have done that. But there's other folks who I want to interview. A lot of people in this town are entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. If you go to any business in this town of downtown Denton, Main Street, and you look at any store, it's going to reflect the personality of the people who had a dream to open these stores. Mm-hmm. I'd like to get their stories as well. I'd like to get the story of Jason Edwards. He has the barbershop down the street.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I would love to have him on the show. Yeah,
Best
great
guy.
guy.
Great guy. You think you know how to play chess? We've been talking about.
I'll crush him. I'll crush him as a chess. Hey, don't even come here with no chess. But
I want to see. I can't find nobody that want to play me.
I got y'all.
I don't know. It seems like the two of you all need to challenge each other in chess. Then
I can't wait.
I got this. So he has another business that he started maybe a couple years ago that he brought from another friend of ours, and it's a business where he teaches kids how to drive or something, like driver's education, right? Mm-hmm. He's walking down the street with 50 kids, like the Pied Piper of Denton, and they're just walking and they're just listening. I'm just counting. I'm doing a matrix thing about the numbers that he's doing right now. I'm like, I am in the wrong business.
My son is in his class right now?
Yeah, my son was in his
really?
class. So I want to interview him. I want to interview Vadim, who has the Gunfather store across the street.
That's my guy right there.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
Crooked Ken.
I love him.
Crooked Ken, Sean Parker, all these tattoo artists in this community. Mm-hmm. Patty for Patty's Petals, Patty Wood. She's been in business as long as I have. She does a flower shop. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who have families, who have an alternative lifestyle, who have taken the risk to open their own thing and raise their families in this town where there's not a lot going on except for chicken farms and teaching and things like that. It's a cool place, and this is a place that I don't know that exists in much of America anymore. It's a place where you can move from Washington, D.C., not know one person, open a place, a black guy opens an Irish pub in downtown Denton, and it survives. And how would that happen anywhere else except Denton?
I'm going to be honest. When I first moved to Denton, and I've been here about 6 years. Right on the outskirts, but I live in Denton. When I first moved here, and me and my wife first came to the pub, and we seen you up there, I did not know you were the owner at all.
Right. And it's
because I've never seen a black man own an Irish pub.
Right.
I always thought all the Irish pub was owned by the Irish.
But the irony of the situation, which is not lost on me, I do appreciate the irony and understand the irony, is that why would that matter in real life?
True.
You know what I mean?
Right,
yeah.
You're right.
I would open a Chinese pizza joint if I could make money out of it.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
But everybody's pigeonholed, So do I tell people necessarily that, this is my place? No, it doesn't matter. If you're having a good time here and you happen to know that this is my place, great. Yeah. If you don't care, you don't care. You're having a good time. That's the beauty of this place. Yeah. You don't have to know me. You don't have to. A lot of people say, "Oh, I know the owner." Blah blah. Nobody cares. I don't have any. Like, yeah, I know him too. So that's why it works here in Denton. And would that work anywhere else in America? That I can't think of a place that would work. I can't think of a place where there's so much diversity in a town. And this is a red town in a blue state. But we're accepted, and people come here and they're supportive, and we love them for it, and we accept whatever political bent you have or whatever your background. As long as you're respectful and you have fun and you're fun-loving and peace-loving, come on in.
And you're a value to the community.
I appreciate
you really
that.
Are.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And the community is a value to me because I could not have survived without this place, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not lost on me. And
Yeah.
and out of respect for the people who have been here for me when they didn't have to be, I will always honor that and always remember what they did to make sure that I could feed my family.
Yeah, so one of the things that I appreciate so much when I come in here is that it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, your gender, your race, your if you worship, if you believe in a higher power, none of that stuff matters.
It's all welcome.
Because as many times as I've been here, those conversations have never come up.
Sure. And
ever. You know,
bars, it's a tricky thing to do that with a bar, you know.
It is.
Like you have to really mind your P's and Q's, and everybody's accepted and welcome.
Yeah.
So I don't we've had drag shows, we've had, you know, anything. If as long as you're in a good place mentally and spiritually and financially, you can come here.
Yeah. I think that's a good spot for us to go ahead and just end. So, but before we end, I want you to let everybody know exactly the name of the place. Of course, we've said there's a couple of sounds.
Sure.
Let's just repeat it. You can give them the address.
Yes.
If you have anything on social media, website, whatever it is, so they know exactly where to go and how to find you.
All right. So this is the Market Street Public House, 200 Market Street, downtown Denton, Maryland, on the Eastern Shore. I think our website is www.marketstreet.pub, and I'm at marketstreet.pub. Our Market Street Pub is our Instagram account, and I think that's everything. You can go to Facebook, Instagram, Threads, what have you, where we have a presence. This podcast will be another platform that you can hopefully participate in. Hopefully you follow us, and hopefully you get some insight to the things that I've experienced and enjoy. And I'm trying to document. I am trying to document some of the coolest people and the coolest stories that you will hear in a podcast. Is it Club Shay Shay? It ain't Club Shay Shay, but it is my pub, my place,
Pub
my
Shay
podcast.
Shay.
Pub Shay
Pub
Shay.
Shay
Pub
Shay.
Shay Shay. Can I patent that? Is that still
No,
open?
we don't want his people coming out.
I
Right, yeah, I
gotta
want
work out a
problems.
little bit to get.
Unless we talk to Cat or one of them.
Right.
Yeah, I better do some push-ups or something.
Pub Shay Shay, that's all right.
Pub Shay Shay.
Yeah, that is funny. That is funny. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we appreciate everybody for tuning in, and just make sure that you are on the lookout for more episodes of Pub Life Behind the Bar, with Brian and everybody that he decides to bring on here for more interesting stories, where they will be a lot more open than he was.
Hey-yo.
Thank you, and we will see you soon.